Welcome to the Freeman Report, brought to you by Patriot Shit Outfitters. www.patriotshit.com. If you go to checkout and use promo code TFMR2022, you get 10% off anything you buy in the store, and it also goes to help the Freeman Report. So without further ado, we're going to introduce the one, the only, Mr. Jeremy Deeter. Mr. Jeremy Deeter, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm excited to get this done tonight, and I feel like this is probably one of our more important broadcasts since we started doing this concerning the Michigan case. No surprise that it falls on the day where they start to pick jury. And I think they said 45 minutes before the close of the day, they had their jury seated. So let me break over to saying hi real quick to Rosemary McGuire, Gillis Spirit 2, Lima Charlie, Chastity Knight, and Christina Sayer. And Chastity, I appreciate you giving me the call-in information. So that's one thing. Thomas, when you get the chance, I messaged you the information. And if you guys want to listen to the court case live as it's going on, you'll be able to call into this number and listen for yourselves tomorrow. So
do you want me to put it in the chat, or
if you're able to? Yeah, it's a phone number and a code.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
And I think it's like you do the pound code and then pound again.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna periodically put it in the chat. So every 10-15 minutes, I'll put it in the chat. People can scroll through the live chat and snag it for themselves. I don't think it's gonna fit. I think it'll fit on a comment. I don't know if it'll fit on a banner.
Yeah, you can just edit it out and just put the phone number and the code.
Okay. I'm gonna just keep doing that. I'm gonna do that and just keep doing it in the chat.
Cool. So that number and code, you guys will be able to call in tomorrow, listen to the trial for yourselves. Sorry I didn't have that sooner. I feel like I should have. Joe Axe, Blue Ridge, appreciate you guys being here. So first thing I want to do tonight is go over and give a brief surmise of this case. And excuse me, kind of just get everybody reacquainted with some of the details of this case. And then I'm going to bring it to the present day. I also want to say something to all of our patriots out there that are going to be testifying for the defense. There's somewhere around 40 of us that are all going to break away from our lives and go up to Michigan and stay in hotels and the whole thing and testify for the defense. So I want to say something to all of you. And then the last thing we'll discuss tonight is the prayers and some things that we want people to pray about specifically, and just perspectives for prayer when we think about this case. So those are the three things we're going to go over tonight, man. And if you guys get a chance, cool, there's the number and the password. Thank you, man. If you guys get the chance, before we get started too heavily here, if you guys were able to just share us out and do all the silly little bells and whistles there, we'd appreciate it. So as this case started, what had happened in my experience was being at work, taking a break, and then reading some of the messages that I was getting and seeing these articles where people had been arrested. And then when I read who it was, come about the third article, it was, people I knew. So before then, months before then, I was in a meeting where I was called to speak at a meeting. So I went, didn't think much of it. I did have my own thoughts concerning their, being not safe possibly, but my speeches are pretty much the same. So I go there, I give my speech, and now all these months later, my friends are arrested, and they say it was at that place where there was a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. And so immediately, all of us were just reeling, thinking, well, the cops are probably going to come to my place. And as time went on, Thomas and I decided to start this show because there were so many details of this case coming out that people needed to know. The lead investigator who signed his signature to make the indictments possible has since been fired from the FBI. He was known as somebody who had been involved with crimes during cases before, where he had been involved, I believe, with the Attorney General of Michigan concerning a case where there was witness tampering and evidence tampering and things like this. But he was actually fired for beating his wife's head into the dresser. And they never charged him with how drunk he was when they got him, or not any of that. And the guy has since been able to charge these guys, then get charged himself, go to court, see it to its finality, which was nothing. He got nothing. There's evidence, there's body cam footage, there's everything, and he got nothing. And now we go to looking at the informants. As some of the motions have been filed in court, they show that a lot of people that we thought were friends were actually confidential informants and had been working for the feds. So as we find this out, we start to piece things together, and we start to research the case for ourselves. And then along comes the spider of a company called X-Intel that was going to be used, or maybe it had been being used, to subvert the United States Constitution. And instead of using warrants, they would just use this private company to do all of the work for the federal government. That way they could avoid all of that. And they may have been using it as a shell company too. And there's other things involved there that, who knows. So the two officers that were involved with this ex-Intel company, Chambers, and what was the other guy's name?
Jason Chambers, Henrik and Paula, which Henrik and Paula, that's such a weird name. And Robert Trask?
Richard Trask.
Richard Trask. Why do I always say Robert? I just want to address Slider in the chat says, but why didn't they come to your house? I think that needs to be addressed, and I want to address it a little bit, and you can address it as well. So
yeah, go ahead.
Ever since I've entered this Patriot movement, from the beginning, the feds came after me, and they tried to talk to me. I pretty much gave them the slip, because I had people watching my back, where the feds were trying to talk to me, because out of nowhere, after I started organizing, the FBI started asking, oh, who's this new guy? So they called me once, and then I called my friends, had them sit at a Starbucks. And what happened at that Starbucks was they were just asking me, my general view of things. And I told them, if you guys believe in the Constitution, I believe in the Constitution. We have nothing to really talk about. Nobody I'm involved with has any interest in breaking the Constitution. In fact, that's what we do, is preserve it. But one of the two guys that were watching ended up putting those pictures online. Ever since then, I think that's why they sent Roby after me. And I think that's when I started to begin using my words very carefully, because I knew that they were not happy about people organizing around the Second Amendment. They made it very clear. And ever since then, I've always carried myself with that. And I've always told everybody around me to carry themselves with that kind of presence. With the presence, understanding that we are in danger in our own country. We are in danger from people who are watching us for no other reason than that we organize Second Amendment events. That was the only thing I ever got involved with this movement for, was to organize Second Amendment events and preserve the Constitution. So that's why I got involved. And so I started carrying myself in a certain way, and I encouraged everybody else to carry themselves in that certain way. But it appears that a lot of them didn't, and a lot of people would say a lot of things that joking around or not, the feds love anything that they can get. And so that's why they didn't come to me. That's why I don't think they came to Jeremy. Jeremy carries himself in the same way. We make sure that what we say is what we will stand by, because we know that we are being watched at every single second for no other reason than being Americans that stand for the Constitution, defend the Constitution, and fight against the FBI. There's nobody that's been more vocal about repealing and abolishing the ATF, abolishing the FBI, supporting whistleblowers against the FBI. And so they know that we're savvy as well. And that's another reason why I think that they aren't coming after us. And that's my take on it. And that's the truth about it.
Yeah, I think when I talked to an investigator, we've talked to many, I asked him, I said, because I had the same question. I said, well, why haven't they come after me? Why haven't they arrested me? And the only answer that I've gotten is that because you're not an idiot. And this goes back to what Thomas was saying, where, and Slider, you know this too, where you train yourself to speak in a meticulous way because you do know, like, that you are being surrounded by enemies. So I trained myself to speak that way, and I get what they're saying, but it goes deeper than that for me in this situation. Before, I think the night before the meeting, I told Lisa, I said, I don't want you going to this meeting. And, she didn't even take me seriously at first. But I was like, no, seriously, I don't want you to go. And she's like, well, why not? And I said, well, I just get a bad feeling. I think there might be cops there. And I don't want them to misconstrue anything you say. And we actually ended up discussing this the next day, too. And she had a justified question. She said, well, if you don't want me there and you think there are cops there, why are you going?
Yeah.
And I said, because I don't think everybody that's going there has the same intuitive sense that I do, that there might be cops there. So, and I'm sure you guys are going to get this in the evidence. This is going to come out in court at some point. You watch. I said, when I went into the meeting, because I felt the way that I did, I said, whatever we discuss here is in the hypothetical. And that way, and then I explained, because you can get a federal conspiracy charge for that. So, you know what I mean? I guess that I covered my butt good enough there, and they didn't invite me to any more meetings either, so it is meticulous speech, but it was also intuition. I don't want people to ignore that. If you're feeling like something is off about somebody, I'm not saying we're always going to be 100% correct, but listen to your intuition.
Yeah. I just want to make one more comment. So I want to just reiterate that in 2014, I got involved with the Patriot movement because I love this country. And then all of a sudden, for no other reason than I was organizing rallies at the Capitol, the FBI came after me and it scared the shit out of me. So I called my friends to cover my back. That's how scared I am of the FBI. I just want the FBI to understand how much of a danger we're in from them. It's not the other way around. All we want to do is be patriots and live our lives. And these guys are coming after us for no reason, for other than legitimate political discourse. These are legitimate political discourses. And that's why we have to live on the edge. And that's why we have to protect ourselves when we speak. And that's the biggest thing, that if anybody takes anything away from this, always be aware, have good situational awareness, because they are coming after us. Because there used to be a time in this country when you could advocate the Constitution and you'd be fine, but that's not the times we're living in. And that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, no, operating not just from, say, like coming from a blue or a white collar family, where nobody's getting arrested and there's no infractions with the law and stuff like that. Growing up a little bit differently, and and, you know, at least seeing people around me at first that were, you know, going to juvie or going to jail or whatever it was, you know, and then being just at least having, you know, a little bit of knowledge of, you know, how it is that, as they say, the streets operate. Well, they operate that way because that's how the police operate in large part. And they have they've woken up the patriot community from their naivety and shown them that the reason that the people, you know, again, with air quotes, on the streets behave the way that they do is because the police behave the way that they do. They will set you up. They will lie about you. You do need to speak a certain way. And so I think in that way I had an advantage. You know, I already knew to speak that way coming into the patriot community. And it was just natural at that point. It wasn't hard to, you know, just kind of refine my speech a little bit and be meticulous. So, you know, I don't know. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the only reason I bring up that these instances of me dealing with these guys was because that's the real reason that I think they set Robeson after me, is because I embarrassed them, because they were so convinced that I was just some young stupid hick that didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground, that they tried to, you know, intimidate me. But I already had two guys waiting there, and they ended up taking pictures that they probably shouldn't have posted online, but they did post post them online, and it embarrassed the agents. And then shortly after that is when Roby started harassing me to essentially become friends, and he was so dedicated to the Patriot cause. And that's how I wind up in this, for no other reason than I organized some events to protect the Second Amendment. And this is what blows my mind, is that we've been living in we see all this corruption now, but this country has been just as corrupt for a lot longer than now. I mean, we've always been this corrupt. We're only now just seeing it for the most part. There's a lot of people that have known this for a long time, but now we have absolute proof of the absolute degradation and corruption of our system, that we have federal agencies, federal investigatory agencies that A, are unconstitutional, B, should be abolished, C, are acting belligerently, coming after good American hardworking folks that all they wanted to ever do was stand up for their country and their Constitution and their rights that they have a right to stand up for. It's just, dude, it's heartbreaking for me to see our country in this state.
Yeah. I'm gonna shut off my camera for a minute, but I'm gonna keep the audio going here. With this case, we started to see all of these things. We started to see through their own evidence and motions. You know, granted, we haven't seen everything, but through what we have seen, we started to see, because we were open-minded at the beginning and said, well, look, if guys, you know, if they did something wrong, then, you know, they should be held accountable, because that's not the patriot community. That's not who we are. That's not what we are. And then as the evidence started to come out through different motions and everything, we started to see that they didn't have anything, that it was, you know, taking conversations and like a meme that I think Barry posted. And it's a meme. It's actually just a meme. It's not, you know, but they said that was his hit list that he had compiled of politicians that he wanted to hang. And it's literally a meme. I mean, so we started to see all of that, and was pretty sure, you know, at that point, that this was what we had suspected it was, which was the feds coming in once again, creating a case and trying to give people a bunch of time and ruin their lives and everything else. And this is the exact same thing that we saw from the FBI concerning a big old Muslim community in Michigan, where they have the headquarters for CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. They went in there, and then planted confidential informants, charged a bunch of guys, and when it all came to be, they found out that it was the FBI that had made and created the plots and the whole thing. And if you guys look into that case, you'll see that the Muslim guys were dismissed, that they had charges dropped and things. Well, if they were to do it then, and now we see that Biden has all of this allocated funding towards what he calls domestic terrorists, then why wouldn't they now? There's absolutely nothing to stop them. And that was what Thomas and I realized, was that, this is, not even just shabby. This is bad FBI work. This is bad police work. They've exaggerated all of their claims. I mean, this is really bad and ridiculous. And so we started to do this show. Since then, we've been contacted by a lot of people concerning this case in a lot of different ways. And we've brought to you guys, what we could from all of that, and tried to keep everybody in the loop. Which leads me into, I want to segue into speaking to the patriots that are going to be testifying. But before I do that, Thomas, was there anything else you wanted to say in regards to that?
No, but just that, I mean, dude, I've never, and Jeremy and I have talked about this. I never, ever, when we got involved with, defending our country and our rights, never ever pictured myself being in this position. They act like we're Al Capone. They act like we're, strong arming people and doing all this other stuff. And yet that's exactly what they're doing. And we started this as soon as the Michigan case hit, I was completely flabbergasted, because none of what they had said, none of the things that they were saying had ever been anything that we actually had discussed in any there's no, people joke, but none of what they were saying made any sense to me, because none of that stuff was an agenda point. But I have tons of legitimate agenda points that we had in Wisconsin as the militia, and to these guys, and pretty much I worked with any and all militias that would listen, because as a person who speaks on the Constitution, as a person who promotes natural rights, I want to see those rights defended. And so I reached out to all the militias, and what we were talking about was, one, the election. We were scared that it was going to go sideways, and that the Democrats accepted if Donald Trump got reelected. And so the main things that we were talking about were things like making an organization, an order of constitutionalists, minting little coins for the Patriot militias, identification coins and stuff like that. As well, we were looking at places where, if things go bad, how can we get people to safety? These are the only legitimate points of actual activity that we were doing. Those are the only things we were concerned about. One, how can we help people if things get bad? How can we save lives? How can we help people get out of danger if this political situation gets out of hand? Because we had seen cities burn. We had seen them burn to the ground. And so we were concerned that that was more of that was going to happen. We were going to need to save our friends and loved ones. That was a legitimate agenda point. 2 was making sure that we could have an organization that could, help train people and raise funds and raise awareness. 3, just minting little coins and stuff. And I mean, those are not anything that was in that report. And so it didn't make any sense to me. It never made any sense to me. And so I didn't know what to make of it. And then finally, as things trickled out, there was we talked to Steve on camera, and you could, if anybody wants to see the interrogation of Steve Roby, I guess you would call it. I mean, I didn't see it as an interrogation. We saw it as trying to find out who's lying to us, because everything didn't make any sense. So if you want to watch that, that's on the Freeman Report here. To the chagrin, to the anger of the FBI, we actually have their informant lying to everybody, lying about everything on tape. So we've done everything we possibly could to try to help and save this country. And to be honest, this is the most somber broadcast I've ever done, because it feels like our country has turned its back on us.
Yeah. It's not just the feeling, it's the recognition that they can make claims through the media that how are we going to dispute in a tangible way when literally they have the media. And that's why, and for everybody, I mean, that's why Thomas and I decided to do this show. We knew that what was happening was wrong. We knew that they were trying to paint a bunch of guys as terrorists and all of that. That I don't know how many of you have paid attention to the broadcasts that have gone on, but they have said that these guys and everybody associated with them are more dangerous than Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, Al Fatah, Hezbollah, Hamas, Boko Haram, Serenos, Los Zetas, the Italian mob, the Russian mob, the Jewish mob, the Greek mob. They said that Barry Croft, Adam Fox, all of the Ty Garbin, they said that all of these guys are more dangerous than them, than all of those groups. And the claims have been made, and they always associate to, like everybody does, but they do it, in a way to make our guys look like lunatics, where they say, and they show pictures of like the 9/11, almost 9/11 underwear bomber, and then they'll show the guys training, and then they'll show the towers coming down, and then they'll show pictures of ISIS, and then they'll show pictures of the guys training. And and this is how they've done it in their articles and digital online platforms, and they've made all of these claims that this is the case, and they're talking about you as well, and recognizing that is appropriate. It's proper that this is exactly what has happened. This is what's going on. You're living in a time where your government will lie about you. They'll say that you're doing this, that, and the other. They'll put bombastic charges on you and make you out to be an absolute lunatic, in your pariah in your own society. And they'll suffer no ramifications, even if you're found innocent. This is the way it's always gone on for them. And this is just another couple of numbers to them. Well, to us, and that's just to the individual feds, to the DOJ and everybody, this case is a much bigger deal, because this indictment that went both with state charges and federal charges, between those two right there, they've encompassed, if you're in the militia, you can face federal terrorism charges. If you're in the militia, you could also face state charges for gang activity. So they also tried to charge the guys, and that's how they presented everything. But the terrorism charges on the state level got taken out by the judge. And instead of, and what was removed in the preliminaries on the federal side, or the lack of, was replaced with a weapons of mass destruction charge. So, obviously way overplaying their hand. Well, they don't care. They'll lie on you. If you know about Dan the informant in Michigan, who has a hernia on his stomach, or at least had at the time, a real genuine medical condition where the fat and the intestines are poking out in between the muscle lining. And that's what a hernia is. The muscle lining splits and the intestines poke out. And so he shows everybody this, and he says that the VA hospital will not give me surgery. Right. Steve Robeson, which we might play a little bit of video from an article here in a bit, held hands in circles and prayed and led prayers. So these are the degrees, the willingness that your enemy is willing to go to set you up, to take you away from your family and your whole life and everyone you love, because you decided to stand up for your country, right? Not because you actually committed a crime, but because you're a known patriot. And that's our reality. And it is appropriate and expected for us to give that the recognition that it deserves. It's not out of place, and it's not extreme. This is our reality. And again, this leads into all of the patriots that are going there to testify. Go ahead.
So the weapons of mass destruction charge is silly. What they're saying is that when's the last time you heard somebody say weapons of mass destruction, and it be, what was in relation to Saddam
Hussein?
So they're already planting the seeds. They're setting the tone for portraying these people as these massive terrorists because they got upset, got recorded saying something out of turn, because they got upset when they were watching. Because literally during the meetings, one of the cities were burning. Cities were burning to the ground, and these people had just had their businesses shut down. I mean, they had their livelihoods destroyed by the government. Then the government stands down and lets those same businesses be burned to the ground. And then they say something out of turn, out of frustration, and now all of a sudden they're terrorists with weapons of mass destruction. And what constitutes weapons of mass destruction? Some primers that are for reloading ammo, some gunpowder, which is for reloading ammo, which is legal, some BBs, which could be for reloading ammo, and then a propane tank. 3 of those things relate to reloading ammo, which is a totally legal process that you can do at home. And was also, I forgot to mention, that was another one of the agenda points. We saw that ammo was going up because of COVID, and we wanted to help guys be able to train because we knew things were getting sketchy in the cities, and we didn't know what was going to happen with the election. We thought the whole thing was going to go up in flames because Antifa had been and BLM had been raging throughout the whole country. And so we wanted to help guys train affordably. And so we wanted to figure out a way maybe to help reload, shotgun shells and this and that. And in fact, Barry did have a shotgun, a DP-12, which is, again, a totally illegal firearm. And it would not be out of character to have those reloading things in his possession because he has that firearm. And so it's like these things are everyday items, but they're being billed as yellow cake uranium. They're being billed as like a nuclear warhead or like the Boston bomber. Like they're being billed as like a pressure cooker bomb when none of that was ever found. They found fireworks and they found stuff that doesn't even pertain to anything like that. And so it's just, I don't know, man. I don't want to get emotional about it. And we talked about this before. It's with everything going on, it's just really aggravating to see how deceitful our government can be. And if we really look at it, if we really want to put it in perspective, why is our government being so deceitful? Because they have deceit, because there's corruption, because the people that they don't like are the people that are exposing their corruption. It's not even it's almost not even like it's a self-preservation thing in their heads. They're going after anybody who might expose what they have done. And that's the only way I can see it, because there's no other reason for them to be this egregious in their persecution, in their prosecution of people who did nothing more than love their country and get aggravated when they saw their cities get burned to the ground, and the police that they pay for stand down.
Yep. The night of the meeting that I went to, that they said is the meeting that started the plot to kidnap the governor, we had militia leaders here from something like 9 different states or something and they all went down into downtown Columbus that night and watched BLM and Antifa tear up my city, alongside the police and the National Guard. And, you know, if they wanted to do something, like if the plan was to be extreme or something, like we were, you know, like plotting to do something or whatever, you're not going to find a better time than that night, you know? So that's something that showcases that these are not extremists, you know, they weren't looking for a reason to fight. They weren't, you know, the reason we came together was made pretty clear in the video that's on the channel here. 7-minute video that shows, you know, me talking there, and that was what guided us and what motivated us. Was
Should we play that video just to give context? I know we've played it 1,000 times, but just in the context of explaining the timeline and everything, maybe it would be good just to play it through. I mean,
yeah.
So I don't know. I know there's people coming in and out, and I know that we have some new viewers that I haven't seen before. So maybe you guys haven't seen this video, short video. It's of Jeremy Deeter at the Dublin meeting, and that's where the federal the indictments, I believe, is that what it was, say that the plot took form or whatever. But let's see if this is the only video we have of the meeting, it doesn't jive with what the FBI is saying. So I'll just put it like that. So we're gonna play that real quick, Jeremy. If you wanna, I was gonna have you talk while I just try to get this pulled up.
Okay, yeah. So this obviously is not the entirety of the conversation that was had there. There was, you know, 15 people or so there, so there was a lot more said, obviously. But this tells you. For what 7 minutes of it was about, that gives you an idea, at least, into our heads and our thinking and some of our motivations. Now, we talked about a lot of things, but we never talked about kidnapping a governor. You know, in lieu of that, our conversations were more like this. So here you go.
Yeah. All right.
Is to do what? Go back in our communities and do what?
This may be our first and greatest initiative. Our lands need healed, and there's nobody coming to heal them. It is the responsibility of the Americans to heal these lands. There's no one coming to save us. There's nobody coming to do this for us. And we've been pitted against each other. We can sit here and pretend like this isn't the case, but racism is alive and well in our country because it was handed to us. It was forced down our throats.
It was forced on us.
And so now this becomes the way that we deduce and the way that we give reason and logic, and all of that fundamental premise is a way that insane people reason rightly from the wrong means entirely. It's the wrong conversation. The Americans haven't had a chance to have a conversation, but if they did, if it was our conversation and it was honest, we would go to the poorest people, we would go to the richest people, we would go to black neighborhoods, we would go to white neighborhoods, we would go to women, we would go to Hispanic, Latino. We would reach out to every single one of our countrymen and women because we understand what it is we've lost and what we stand to lose yet, which would be the rest of our nation. And we tell them, I realize that we've been divided against each other, that hatred has gotten a hold of both of our people, that it's in America, that you drink it, that you eat it, that you breathe it, that you sleep it, that you wake with it. And our effort is to take that away. That all of the racist ideology that has been given us by corporate-sponsored governance, because these people have the biggest interest in making sure that we hate each other. And it's very, very well placed. They used the worst parts of us that all of us have. And then they gave us fear. And then they wouldn't stop. And they wouldn't stop. And they wouldn't stop. And here we are today. But beyond all of that and above that, we still sit here today with not just olive branches, that we're trying to extend. And not just broken hearts, but with a yearning and a sense of urgency that we're not sure this nation has felt before. And we recognize it in our countrymen and women, no matter their color, no matter their age, no matter their sex. If you're here, if you're an American, if you see what's happening, you're not alone. We're with you. But the media and everybody has made sure they've done an incredible job to keep us apart. They have us hating each other. They have us harming ourselves. We are here to put an end to all of that. Stop that. All of the messages that are preaching hate and division. Anybody that wants you to hate yourself or somebody else is your enemy, period. We are not here for that. That is not what we want. What we want is for each and every one of our countrymen and women to realize that the militia and the patriots that you were told were a bunch of racists. That is not true. It was a tool to divide you against us. We are not racist. We are not hateful people. We want to stand with all of you, with each and every one of you. And we'll absolutely recognize our enemies as they come, no matter what shade or form they come in. But most everybody here of our countrymen and women are our friends and allies, our neighbors. These are the people that we share the same space with regardless. And we collectively stand to lose everything, all of us. We're not unrealistic, right? We have been harmed against each other. So in that recognition, we're not asking for everybody to be friends and sing Kumbaya. What we're asking is that if you have people here that you love, if you have something or someone worth fighting for, then you have people to stand with you to help you. And we come in every shade. We come in every single demographic. And we've been told that we're racist, that if you're a white militia, gun-toting, camouflage-wearing, patriot, then you're racist. That is not true. That is not true. And forget all of the messages that you've heard. Forget every single person or every single time that you've heard that it's been promoted on the television or the radio. It isn't true. We desperately want and need everyone to stand with us, or we will all lose together. Every single one of us. Now, this is our olive branch that we're extending. That we need you. That this has to happen. That when everybody talks about government, they talk about how powerful they are, but I promise you, their nightmares are made out of the day that we stand together, because they know that they stand to lose everything, all of their lies, all of their deceptions. It all comes to an end immediately, and we start to get everything we want. And at the very least, we wake up in a nation the next day that does not see that same tension that the government gave us the day before. That if we're going to hate each other, if we're going to love each other, we get to do so honestly by our own merits and our own interactions. That if we're going to come together, then we do so with the understanding that this isn't going to be a bunch of people who have known each other forever coming together. We have to recognize this is for one purpose, for all of us to be free. Forget what you've been told. Forget what you heard. It is not true. We need you. We want you to stand with us. This has to be the case, or all of us lose. It's going to take a little bit of courage. It's going to take some bravery for you to stand with us. If you're a black person and you've been told that all of the white people that call themselves patriots are racists, then we are those patriots they're talking about, and we are not racist, and we are not hateful people. They've done that to divide all of us against each other. So we're saying, come stand with us, please, or allow us to come stand with you, please, on whatever terms that we can do this. Look at what we've lost and think about what we stand to lose. Let it circulate however it does inside of you, but please consider it. Please give it an honest consideration, because this nation, collectively, its heart is broken. And none of us want this. And we want to get it back into the hands of the common man and woman. And the common man and woman, their hands come in every single shade. Every single shade. That's what we need. That's what we want. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Just gonna take this down here. So yeah, I mean, and I knew Jeremy and I knew of each other cursorily before all this went down. We ran in the same circles and stuff. But when I saw that video, I was like, man, that dude's pretty awesome. And I
Thanks, man.
think that's the beginning of well, I thought we could use some lightheartedness. I mean, I got a little emotional in the beginning there. Because it really is. It's a lot. It's all the things that we've sacrificed in our lives for this. And we've had people come at us and call us everything under the sun, from COINTELPRO to, terrorists, and everything in between. And all for the simple fact that we love our country and want to work to get it back the way it needs to be. It's just, yeah, man, it's a rough ride. But we do it because we want to do it, and we don't cut and run. We stick with it. And when they try to attack people that are our friends that we know are not what they're saying they are, we rally around them. What else can we do? That's what that's what friends and brothers do, is we rally around each other to lift each other up. We don't cut and run when shit gets hard. Excuse my language, but that's just not. It's not built into me. I know it's not built into Jeremy, and I know it's not built into a lot of the people in the audience. Probably, I would say everybody except for maybe the possible DOJ and government people that are watching. But I would hope that they too would feel the same way about exposing corruption and standing with each other and standing up for America. I would hope that they feel the same way. I really, really would. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think it's not unreasonable to have that expectation, and I suppose that's the problem, is that as far as any standard goes, it became unreasonable. And that in and of itself is unacceptable. That's why we're here. So what you're really talking about in the chat room there and all around this case are somewhere around 40 patriots that in about 3 weeks are going to get called to Michigan. We are aware that every word that we say goes into the National Archive, that it goes into the law books, and that's for every federal case, let alone for a case that sets precedents nationally, obviously federally.
Yep.
We're normal people, man. We are not cops. We are not government workers of any kind. We are not COINTELPRO. We're not anything like that. We are seriously regular people, like normal people that are dads and moms and sons and daughters, and like just regular people, man. Like, this is what's happening to us. And yeah, we have to like kind of uproot our lives and go to Michigan, but this is part of, and this is our part of what it is to be a patriot. We're called to do this. And I want to commend the people that are going. I want you to know that it's an honor of a lifetime for us to be able to serve our country in this way. Many of us are civilians. We're not military. We'll never know the honor or the duty of serving our nation. What a brave thing it is when you feel like you're living through a novel like 1984, and you still take the reins into your own hands to believe in an idea that the most powerful people around you are trying their best to kill in the minds and hearts and spirits and the history books. This is a unique group for me to be able to stand with and stand by and call my countrymen and women and my brothers and sisters. And I have to recognize that. I have to recognize that I'm blessed to be able to be in such an honored position. Does it, do I think about, like what this experience is going to be like? Absolutely. I know everybody else is too. And hopefully for the folks who aren't involved this closely, this kind of gives you a perspective as to what some of this is like, and what it's like to go through an experience of being just a regular person. Your friends get arrested, and then your whole world changes, right? Your whole social strata changes because all of the everything that goes on, you don't know if you're like safe to go out anymore. A lot of people expressed that, almost like an agoraphobia. One guy who had his house raided, he saw the cops put a bunch of red dots on a 62-year-old wife who could barely walk down the stairs by herself. So this whole dreadfully long time that she's walking down the steps, she's, her chest and her head are just covered, center mass and head. This is an old woman, right? That they obviously can see cannot harm her. And, they just painted her red and with the lasers. And, ever since then, he's like, I can't believe because of my Patriot involvement that I'm getting involved, that got my wife involved in this, that's how she was treated. And it changed him, and it took him away from the Patriot movement. And while we see in numerous states that the cops really did their jobs, that they did a good job breaking up the militias over the past 5 years. They've tried to pit militia and anonymous against each other. Did that for about 2 years, pretty solid. Just did everything they could to make sure that the Patriots had no friends and that they were painted as racist and hateful and everything else. Now terrorists. And yet here you are. Here you are taking an actual physical stand against their efforts and what it is they're trying to achieve. Knowing that when you step out of that courthouse, you will probably be bombarded by media, right? Knowing that they'll seek to try to harm you, try to harm your character. And yet here you are. Here you are standing in the face of things that, corporations that are incomprehensibly large. And all of us tonight, living in our simple homes, will brush our teeth. There is no golden sink, living very normal lives, standing up to a juggernaut of evil. I commend you. I believe in you. I know that what you're doing is right, and so do you. And there are answers for our guidance concerning this. When we look in the Bible, when we know that we're going to be going to court, it says that we do not plan what it is that we're going to say, that we pray and allow the Spirit to speak through us. What a wonderful relief that is. Because in my mind, I was racing. How am I going to handle this? Should I, be this way? Should I try to be this way? Should I try to, just say little, like as little as possible? How is it that I should be? I've never been in this position before. And how refreshing and invigorating it was to know that I didn't have to plan anything. I do not. I can simply lay it in my Father's hands. And his Spirit is going to come and speak through all of us. We're going into a lion's den. And like many patriots before us, we have to face our own problems in our own time. And this is it for us. This is a big one for us. This case has national precedence. We have to stand up against it. And as it comes down to it, all of you who have been subpoenaed, that is with great purpose, that you get to stand and speak on behalf of your nation through your God to everybody in a time of incredible deceit. This has meaning. This has purpose. It is purposefully you. It is meant to be you. You are the one that God chose to do this. Now allow him to speak through you concerning. You've done everything else he's needed you to do to get to this point. Being who you are, where you are, with the things that you have and the things that you do not have. All of this has guided you to this point, and now you're here. You're only weeks away from being able to do what God has asked you to do, to go and be good witnesses, to tell the truth, to look that courtroom in the eyes and tell it, this is the truth. There was never a plot. We've been lied about. We've been conspired against. And then they charged our friends with conspiracy just to cover their own tracks, the way that they did with Stephen Robeson, and said, oh, well, he's a double agent. Everyone I've talked to, immediately their reaction is that's the FBI trying to cover their own butts. That's all that is, because they could no longer control him after they had charged him. They broke their bond with him, and now there's no trust, and so now they're threatening him with new charges, probably if he, testifies for the defense. And that's my guess anyway. And, we're not in those positions. We didn't sign ourselves up for this at any time. When we volunteered in our patriotism, we didn't know that this was, maybe some of us suspected that, we would either get arrested or, or maybe have to testify in court. But for the most part, this is highly unexpected. And that's okay. That's all right, because the patriots are meant to always be able to improvise, adapt, and overcome. We comprehend fully that in our position, they're always going to come at us. They're always going to come at us sideways. They're always going to come at us in weird ways from strange directions. They don't know how to do things any other way. And we've prepared ourselves for that. We know that that's how this goes. That we, stay frosty, prepare yourself for anything, trust very little, and really rely on that spirit of discernment. I believe that's why I'm free, is because not only did I feel like something was wrong, but I listened to it. And then, even though I was nervous, right, sitting in front of people, most of which I didn't know, I'd never met, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is really, if I'm thinking that cops are actually here, then what I have to say, like, they may come after me or something. You know what I mean? And of course I couldn't get on like a live video and advertise this to you guys, what I was thinking and how I was feeling. Wish I could have, but I just did it. I just did it. I knew that it was what needed to be done. And I knew that this could help to save people's lives, possibly, if I was right. And if I was wrong, then fantastic. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a goofball, but, I was still trying to help. I was still trying to protect people. And this is how you help. This is how you protect people. But possibly 330 million people, if we can get this case to see the light of day of truth and those charges are dismissed or they're found not guilty, this is our purpose. This is why we are here, is to change everything. We're not going to allow our courts to abuse our people. This is what America is. This is what Americans are. We don't care if you call yourself a federal government or a state government. If you're doing wrong and you're doing it within our reach, meaning to our friends, our family, the people that we love. You saw it in Las Vegas. You saw it with the Bundys, right? We don't just lay down and hand you our people. And this is why this case has gone so poorly for the FBI, because we didn't just lay down. We got information. We gave it to the media, anyone who would listen. They helped us to get notoriety, which helped our guys, which changed the case, which, helped to get two of the detectives, the investigators, taken and recused off of the case, two of the lead investigators off of their own case. This tells you the level of criminality that we're dealing with. And that at least we feel we're up against.
And that's the thing. I think that's the thing that kind of they don't understand, is that though we are facing insurmountable odds, though we have everything to lose, and some of us have nothing to lose, but regardless, we are all willing to sacrifice and run towards the danger. When we see that our government is corrupt, we run towards the danger instead of running away from it. We address it. Instead of ignoring it, we address it. Instead of complying, instead of, because, there's a lot of people in the system that are probably just like, well, there's nothing I can do. Well, why should I risk myself? that's not how we think. We stand together. We don't cut and run. When this happens to our brothers and they're put in jail, we don't cut and run. We rally around them. We find out what actually happened. And if they were wrong, then they're wrong. If they did something wrong that we don't agree with, we don't support them. Right. But we don't cut and run. We don't just cut and run and automatically just swallow, because in these times, we know how it goes. The media releases a story. It sounds really, really bad. And then as the time goes on, trickle, 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 we find out it's nothing like what they said in the beginning. And so we need to just make sure that we are not running away every time somebody gets attacked by the FBI, because that person who's getting attacked, they're getting attacked for a reason. And it's because they're exposing something that the FBI does not want exposed. And with Barry, it was Casey Massey. All sorts of different things, I mean, with Lavoie, he was calling him out and saying, you can't do this. With the Bundys, they're saying you can't do this, exposing the BLM and all this stuff. And, it just, they do not stop. They do not stop. And what Rosemary said in the chat was really important, listing, and all the people, I think there was multiple people listing crimes that the FBI committed. And, and we know that they committed, they're documented. And if we look at all those together, in legal terms, we call that a pattern of criminality. And if no Americans are willing to stand up and run towards the danger, even though they know they're going to be attacked by the FBI, even though they know they're going to be smeared in the papers, even though they know that some patriots might even smear them, they still run towards the danger, and they still stick with their friends, and they still fight together. Politically, of course, politically and legally, we fight together. We don't cut and run. That's what makes a patriot different.
And that's why I'm amazed to be able to be in the company of all of you that are going up there and we're doing this, because I know this isn't easy. And, we're all in the same boat here. I feel like we're all in the same shoes where, this is obviously a culture shock. But I tell you what, we're going to go in there and we're going to speak God's truth, and we're going to pray that our God is affecting the jury, the judge, the prosecutors, the defense, us, that entire building and everybody in it, that God's presence will be there, whether evil knows it or not. And that we're going to go in there with the sword of truth, and there will be nothing they can do to prevail against us. We're going to be able to go in there and free those men, to help to free those men. And that's why we're going. And it helps to free a nation as well, and we don't feel as if we have any other choice. We feel as if this is what has to be done. I don't know how else I can look at my daughters and say, you're like, oh yeah, sorry, baby, just, lost the nation to, developmentally delayed tyrants. That we've run into a problem there, and I couldn't face it for you. I couldn't do anything. Yeah, my friends were in a bad spot, but I couldn't do anything. My life was too busy. All of us are in that exact same boat where we cannot see ourselves doing anything else. Does it make us nervous? Yeah. Is it uncomfortable? Yeah, absolutely. Is it probably going to be a little bit expensive? Probably a lot expensive with the gas price. Yeah, probably. And is it something that horses could not drag us away from? You're damn skippy.
Yep.
We'll make it there. If we got to take a bus to get there, we'll make it there. And we're going to do this. And we're going to do it when it makes us nervous. We're going to do it when it makes us uncomfortable. We're going to do it when the prosecutor is asking us questions like, I think the female prosecutor, I got a report today that the women in there for the prosecution are possibly a little snarky, and maybe don't care for us. And so we're walking into a lion's den, and what we're going to do is we're going to be a light, each and every one of us. We're going to light that joint up, man. We're just going to light it up bright, each and every one of us. They're going to see they're naturally built in a way to not be able to help themselves, but to recognize God's light inside of us. And that's what we're going to walk in there with, and they're, there's not anything that they can do against that. We get that they want to be treacherous, but we're going to show them something else that, no matter what you want to call us, man, we're God's kids, we're God's people, and walking in, that's who we are, and being there will remain that, and leaving there, we will also be God's kids. And so, that's what I believe. For the most part, I wanted to say to the folks that are also doing this, and maybe express to the folks who aren't doing this, maybe an inside point of view as to what this is like for us to go through this experience. This is a landmark case, and you're looking at the most normal people you could possibly find on the internet, right? We decided to be patriots. Absolutely. Doesn't make us special, right? We just figured like that's what we're supposed to be because we live here. This is where we live. We're born here. So probably should have some appreciation for the joint, see what we can do to help it move in a positive direction. That was the whole thinking. Then we found out we'd been betrayed and deceived and lied to. And there's actually enemies sitting in powerful positions within our own country. This made us nervous. Then we started to see cities getting torn down. That made us even more nervous. We started to get together and have meetings with people from everywhere. Well, the cops couldn't help themselves. They showed up. And I guess at the meeting I was at, there were 12 of them. That's what was reported by BuzzFeed. So they completely inundated and flooded the meeting with their people who were then trying to stoke fires of, what they would probably now call an insurrection, but nonetheless crimes for people to commit, and then tried to influence them to do so. Now they've turned around, charged our friends. Well, you have a small army, a cadre of patriots that'll be there in about 3 weeks. And I believe that in their experience, they deal with some type of American public. What that is, I'm not sure. But they've not dealt with us yet. They don't know who we are. They think they know because they've read articles and they believe the media. They have no idea. And it's not just myself and Thomas that feel this way. They're going to find out that, by and large, this is pretty much the entirety of our community. They're going to run into a wall of truth. These are not people that you can easily cajole. These are not people that you can get to believe something that isn't true because you just said it. These are folks that are going to say, listen, I was actually there. This is what happened. This is what didn't happen. So you can make from that what you want, but that's where we're at. I don't know what else to tell you. These are not folks that are delusional. These are responsible gun owners that have killed no one, right? These are combat veterans that are also responsible gun owners who have had to kill people in the war theater and then came home, put their guns in the closet unless they were going to the range, and then went and got a cheeseburger, right? These are people with self-control. These are people that know self-responsibility, self-dignity. These are people that believe in the founding and guiding principles of this nation. These are not people that are going to stray away from the truth very easily at all. And I don't know, the type of people that they usually have within the confines of their foreign enclave, but in the patriot community, you're running into something you've not seen before. You've not seen this before. Not like this. We're not here to be controlled by you. We know what the truth is. We know how to stand on it. You're not going to be able to get us to lie or manipulate us, or it's just, we're going in there with the truth. And we believe that at the end of this case, when the truth comes out, our guys will be free. And everyone who took part will have taken part in stopping something drastic from happening to our nation, while in large part, most of the nation remained blissfully unaware.
Yep. I can't disagree with any of that. Man, it's wild, really, to look at the times we're living in. It's just wild, man. You have a gun, and this is one thing, they try to. It's almost like the Democrats think they can make everybody forget. And this is actually, because Republican and Democrats were actually pushing. There were some Republicans that were on the Democrat side and pushing the defund the police, burning of cities. Oh, these are just peaceful protests. But it's like all of a sudden they think that we're just going to forget. They think that this is some other time in America or in history where everybody's just going to forget that they told the police to stand down while people were making Molotov cocktails on the Capitol squares and burning down buildings. And when anybody, and the thing is, anybody who went out to try to say, no, you can't do this, anybody who attempted to do the police's job because the police wouldn't do it, like Kyle Rittenhouse, or even considered doing that, were attacked and vilified, and they tried to put him in jail. Look at the McCluskeys. Look at Rittenhouse. Look at this Michigan case. Look at the J6ers, who now Enrique Tarrio, whatever you feel about him, he was arrested today on federal conspiracy charges, I believe. And so they're trying to arrest us all. They want to. They're looking to put us in a gulag, because if we will not forget that they betrayed this nation by supporting the burning and looting of cities, the destruction of our border, the destruction of our independence, our energy independence, which Biden came out today and said, "Oh well, we've been drilling more oil than Trump's first year in office in America." That's not true. They're literally just straight up lying to you. They're literally trying to pee on your back and tell you it's raining. It's incredible. And so these men, their only crime was saying, and Patriots' only crime is saying, we see the corruption. We're not going to just go along with the corruption. We're going to go against the corruption. We're going to try to fix this. We love this nation, and we're not going to let it descend into this madness. And it seems like every time we've said, no, we will not let you do this, they just keep upping the ante and upping the ante and upping the ante, because I don't think they know what else to do. I don't think they've ever been challenged like this before, and they've never seen people so with nothing, with everything to lose, but acting as if they have nothing to lose and saying, no, we'll risk it all, because I may not benefit from our works, but my children will, and my neighbor's children will, and all of our children will benefit from what happens today, or will benefit or suffer for what happens in Michigan, in this Michigan courthouse, because they are deciding whether ordinary people can get together, and practice their Second Amendment, train, and take personal responsibility for their communities and the safety of their fellow man that they love. They didn't do this out of anger or hate for the government. They did it out of love for their countrymen. They got together. They sacrificed their time. They risked their livelihoods and all this to meet together and say, how can we protect people? And lo and behold, we didn't know that in our midst were people that who were their only goal was to turn that into something terroristic. Because at every turn, there's even recordings where people are saying, no, like, why would you even bring that up? And the only recording we have of an actual agenda point in any of the meetings is Jeremy. Is the recording of Jeremy. Everything else is an FBI recording that was a recording of people having conversations.
Yeah, and most of that doesn't even come from the June 6th meeting. Yeah. Most 90% of their evidence doesn't even come from the meeting that was supposed to be where the plot to kidnap the governor was incepted. That tells you there's an obvious problem with that lack of continuity of evidence, not deriving from where you say it actually started. And those inconsistencies are, this case is riddled with inconsistencies. I hope the defense has seen the things that we've seen as time has transpired. And again, I believe that I am in absolute supreme company And this harkens to what Thomas was saying as well. When this case went down, instead of the Patriots shying away and running and crawling in holes, they contacted the private investigator and said, I will testify. That's ballsy. That's incredibly ballsy. That's incredibly courageous. And to do it now, to stand against this government now in 2022 with baby raper Biden or baby sniffer Biden in office, who is an obvious globalist, who again got on television, flat out lied to everybody because he believes it's 1975 when that's all they used to do.
Well, actually, we don't even know if he's aware enough to lie. Like, he might actually think that's the truth, and he has no idea what's going on.
Possibly.
That's totally plausible.
Yeah, and
like the guy with dementia, it appears that he has dementia.
Well, and dementia aside, I think that, knowing that the position that we're in concerning our Department of Justice, National Security Agency, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Drug Enforcement Agency, IRS, all of these very powerful agencies that in and of themselves could destroy your life if they chose to target you, have decided to target the Patriot community as a whole. And what happened was they said there's around 50 witnesses, and I'm figuring the defense might have 10, and I think that's being generous. They're just going to bring up a bunch of feds and some confidential informants. That's about it. And then the 2 guys that have pled guilty. So 10 maybe. The rest of that 40 or 40 plus is all Patriots. That's my speculation, dude. We're just, you know what I mean? The defense was like, whoa, and we just inundated them with evidence. We inundated them with testimony. We inundated them with the ability to show that what the FBI was doing here was criminal. So again, to say well done would be an insulting understatement. When the federal government stepped in and you saw that what they were doing was wrong, that it was a lie, and they associate, that you're associated with it, and that means they're probably violating your rights and listening to your phone and all of this, instead of shying away, like I'm sure most people would do, you decided to show up in a group of 40. This isn't common. You know what I mean? And for a case that has this much notoriety, this is definitely not common. You don't bring in 40 witnesses, dude. And how many of us can speak well on the Patriot movement and what it is and who we are? It's very simple, right? We, Constitution, man, and not this perverted version of it, this weirdo corporate version that doesn't like us at all. This is something, this is an amazing thing for us to be a part of. How weird is our lives, to be a part of this. And at the same time, how blessed are we that God gave us this purpose to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've received a subpoena from the defense for this case, chances are you're a blessed man or woman. Chances are that God has you exactly where he needs you, for all of us. And it's an honor to stand alongside any of you and all of you, and to be able to have a part in this. And again, I give this to the Lord, man. If you're a Christian, give this to God. And I think all of us are, if not most of us. Give it to him, all your nervousness and everything, and know that, look, I'm just, God, I can't, you know what I mean? This is big. This is too big for me, too big for us. I got to have you speak through me. It's just got to be your spirit speaking through me, and give it to God, and really use this as an opportunity to practice your faith and say, man, when I thought I was still going to be nervous, I prayed and I was like, God, I'm nervous, help me out. I don't want to be nervous. I want to believe in you. I want to have faith in you. And he's going to be like, oh, that's funny. I love my kids. Boop. He's going to help you out. It's going to get every single one of us where we need to be. And that's because this is happening with incredible purpose behind it. And I believe that. I don't know who all does, but I do.
Yeah. I mean, and I know for a fact that, they talk about Cambria. Cambria was one of the meetings, and it was the one that I was at. And all I saw, man, were kids and dogs and patriots getting together, having a barbecue, cooking out, having a fun time on the homemade range there. And just, training and talking and laughing and talking about how much they love liberty and how much they love freedom. And that's what I saw. We'd hang out. That's it. I didn't see they're deriving things that just weren't there. They're just not there. And that's the thing I think that frustrates them the most, is that they had to literally fabricate something because they had nothing. They couldn't get anybody to do what they wanted, which they're so used to being able to talk and cajole and manipulate people into doing what they want. But because God has our back, because God touches our hearts, that's not what we are. We're not willing to do things that are violent and unproductive and don't help anybody. And that's what the FBI was pushing. We were pushing things that were specifically for protecting people. And I thank God that I know all of you and that I've had the chance to be part of the Patriot community, because if there's ever been a community that's generous, open-hearted, what you see is what you get. I mean, it's not, average, ordinary people that will give you the shirt off their back. And for somebody to go into a group like that and then see that that's the way they are, and then seek to deceive them and to harm them and to put them in jail for no other reason than they're trying to bring about a world where the corruption that has happened is being exposed. It's incredible. I mean, I love this community, and I have every bit of confidence that God will provide, and whatever happens is the way God needs it to be.
Well, the strength they've shown in just concerning this case, where you might get 2 witnesses, you might get 3 witnesses for a murder, right? We have 40 that are in opposition to the United States federal government and the Department of Justice. We will be, again, our words are going into the National Archives on the federal record. They'll go out to every prison in America. They'll go out to every law firm. They'll go out to every college that has a law class.
Yep.
And that's because the federal record sets precedents. Again, that's why if these guys are if they're found guilty, you can no longer be militia. Think about the video evidence they showed. It was just guys doing militia training in a neighborhood, around houses, not hiding from anybody, in the daylight, with their own people around them, with cameras, so that they can.
So, and that's a great point, man, because literally I'm subscribed to channels with millions of subscribers that do exactly the same thing that's on those videos. They shoot out of cars. They train people to do that. They run the drill. They run drills. I mean, Grantham, Warrior Poet Society, Colian Noir. You have all these lists, and list them all. I mean, all these, if you go to all these channels, go to Grantham. If you're, maybe a reporter and you're more left leaning and you're watching this, go to Grantham. That's exactly the same kind of footage that the FBI is putting forward as being illegal when it's not. Look at all these other channels. They are doing things that are legal. And so they're trying to portray this footage that should rightfully just be a YouTube video that's for a pro-gun channel. Really, that's all it was essentially a YouTube video that I would watch on YouTube. There's nothing wrong with it. And then they take videos of exploding tannerite, which, again, I can show you that you can buy that right now. It's not a terroristic thing. It's a novelty. It doesn't even work to make bombs.
Right. Somebody said it like you can buy it 10 pounds at a time.
Oh, bro, dude, you can get a lot of it, and
Yeah.
it makes a big boom, and it's just, it is what, it's
But
just
it's not a
something
true
that
explosive. You're not going to be able to use it to like
No.
open a bank vault or something like that. It's not going to do that. It's not how it's intended. It's more an aesthetic than anything. So yeah, I appreciate you reiterating that,
I mean,
because
and mind you that, if you use tannerite, you got to be the right amount of distance away because it will stuff. So you got to be safe and handle it safe. And there's a safe handling procedure right on the tannerite. They tell you how to use it. They tell you how many feet you should be away. But the thing that makes tannerite unusable for an explosive is because you have to shoot it. You have to shoot it, and the bullet has to be going a certain amount of feet per second, or else it will not ignite the tannerite and make the boom. And that's so. And I've even had times when I've shot at a tannerite, novelty, whatever you want to call it, exploding target, and it hasn't gone off because the bullet didn't go fast enough. So it's not something that you could reliably set off. And that's the only thing that I saw them propose that might be even in the realm of a legitimate explosive. But really, it's just an exploding target that anybody can buy. In fact, I should bring up just some random, store site and show that you can buy that right now. Anybody could just type in tannerite and look, you can buy it right now. I mean, it's not something that is
they over exaggerated the entirety of the case. And I believe if this jury is, I don't know what any standard of normalcy is, but if they're just regular freaking Americans that are abused daily like the rest of us by our corporate media, legacy media, leisure class politicians, then they should be able to see, that this is a way overplayed hand on behalf of the government. They obviously had to construct some things here and try to make it seem like there were things going on that weren't, and to the best of our ability, with all of the evidence that's come thus far, and from the testimony that we know about people, that's coming, we wholeheartedly 100% believe that our guys need to be free yesterday.
Yeah, they've already set the press, and this is something that everybody needs to know now, because they've already set the precedent that they can deny you bond, and bail, they just for a tattoo or anything. You know that there's a January 6th defendant that's been sitting in jail for 80 days and hasn't been charged with a crime. Hasn't been charged with a crime, but has been sitting in jail for 80 days. The maximum that law allows for them to hold you without charge is 72 hours. Yet every day since that 72 hours is up, every single one of those days has been a travesty for the Constitution, has been a travesty for justice, and has been a travesty for the United States of America. If we're allowing somebody to be held without charges, are we kidding? We're now a police state. That's all we can say is that we're a police state. If they can come take you, not charge you, throw you in jail for 80 days, a month, almost a month and two-thirds or something like that.
They didn't write NDAA with indefinite detention for no reason. And we knew it. We said it at the time. So here's another one. Conspiracy theorists are now 17-0. It was written for us. It was written for Americans. The Patriot Act was meant to kill Patriot Act. They turned it into freedom because it's meant to kill freedom. NDAA meant to, make sure that they could black bag any American. If they label you an insurgent, then you no longer have any rights. Not that your rights matter now, but if they label you an insurgent or a terrorist, you're no longer a citizen. You're no longer an American. You're no longer whatever. So now they can indefinitely detain you. This is the perversion of words and definitions is all. And so it's just, obvious so that they can take out the nation's patriots because we are the biggest threat. So, like I said, our cadre will be going to Michigan and standing up for the country. And we hope that if you're one of the people that's not doing that with us, that you will pray for us. This is at a courthouse where I'll just use these two as an example. And these are people that we pray for. We're taught to pray for our enemies, right? And but there's still a chance that Richard Trask may go all extra loony, and this is where he lives, this is where he's from. He knows the courthouse, he knows everybody down there. He's whatever, and he may just go crazy, and we don't know if, and this is something all of us that I've talked to anyway agree on. We don't know if
it's scary.
we're going to make it home. We don't know if we'll ever leave Michigan alive. We don't know what's going to happen. And then Steve Robeson, who's got to be there to testify for the prosecution and the defense. He'll be there while we're there. And what if he decides to go all Looney Tunes? What if he decides to lose it? What if, his house, I guess, was caught on fire? Found that out in an article. What if we don't know? Like, what if he lost his wife and his kids and they're not talking to him or whatever? And this guy's just like down and out and desperate. And then he goes to Michigan and he's got to be there. And then he just loses it. You know what I mean? He just freaking loses it. We don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know what's going to happen. And they want to talk about how the families of the guys that are turning state's evidence feel like they have to worry for their safety, and they have to worry for the safety of the jurors, and they have to worry for this. Well, I don't know who from. They can act like that they can act like it's aliens for all I care. We are actually the ones that feel a tangible lack of safety. And we have every reason to look at Stephen Robeson's record, right? When he was with the biker club and all of that. Look at that, right? He has violence on his record. All right. Do we? No, I got drugs on my record. You know what I'm saying?
No, and
what
he
about?
said, and he has pedophilia on his record. He has not just violence, but pedophilia. You have a guy that's beat his wife into wife's head into a nightstand, bloody. Yeah. Like, we don't. I mean, I've never done something like that. You've never done something like that. We haven't done anything even comparable, and yet they're saying they're scared of us. I'm scared to. I've changed my routine just because I don't know. I don't know what these guys are capable of. The FBI has shown it's willing to lie for its agents and cover their agents' butts and try to protect them from prosecution. So if they know that they might be protected from prosecution, what incentive do they have to not harm us? They don't. Exactly. They can do whatever they want, it seems, because this is what we're seeing.
Yeah. Both of them, those two examples right there. They've shown where they can act without impunity, that they can commit crimes, that they can be a felon crossing state lines with guns and drugs. The FBI knows the entire time, does nothing, says nothing, just has them try to entrap patriots, right? The other guy, who was a counterterrorism expert or whatever officer, he's shown obviously a propensity to violence, and this is a bit more recent. Where just recently he was fired from the FBI for beating his wife's head into the dresser, and the body cam footage shows the blood on the bed, so it's there, it happened, that's real. And if he's willing to put his hands on a woman, he's willing to put his hands on anybody, and he knows he can get away with it. That dude probably feels like he could do whatever. So those are the conditions by which we are going down there, because when it was like the famous meme, when it was time to do, patriot things and such, well, we decided to go do them.
Yeah.
And, we'll be there. And we're also not idiots. Obviously, if we're aware of this situation, then we're aware of, what needs to be done, for us to have a reasonable amount of safety around us. And, but, look, the situation is what it is. And everybody knows that's what it is, that everybody on the other side can claim, that they need safety for everybody. But all of that pretending and that living in their world of delusion and wanting everybody else to live in their world of delusion has never worked on us. And that's the reason they target us, because we will not give in. And just because the circumstances are what they are does not mean that we are going to make that disallow us to go. We know that we're traveling there again with God. We're there with God. We're there on his orders. We're there with his purpose. And somebody trying to get into the way of that should probably reconsider. And that's been my thinking from the beginning.
So I want to read. So I think that before we end this broadcast, I want to read two things real quick. And also, I think we should say a prayer. But I just want to read. So in the Citizens Rule Book, if you can get your hands on one, I've been trying to figure out a way to get more citizens rule books and get them out to people. But in it talks about jury of peers. Our forefathers felt that in order to have justice, it is obvious that a jury of peers must be people who actually know the defendant. How else would they be able to judge motive and intent? Peers of the defendant, like the rights of the jury, have also been severely tarnished. Originally, it meant people of equals in station and rank, Black's Law Dictionary, 1910, freeholders of a neighborhood, Bouvier, 1886, or a companion, a fellow, an associate, Webster, 1828. Who has a right to sit on a jury? Oh, I'm sorry. That was the end of what I was going to read. And then the other thing I wanted to read was on the back of the handbook. Isaiah 10, verses 1 and 2. Woe to those who decree unjust statutes and to those who continually record unjust decisions, to deprive the needy of justice and to rob the poor of my people of that right, of their rights. Those are the two things I wanted to read before we ended. And I think we should say a prayer. I think that, those two things were important for me to say. I don't know why. Just
that's good.
Put it on my heart, man.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Before we pray, I want to talk about prayer concerning this case. I've already mentioned a little bit that we want to pray, and these are things that I am just suggesting to all of you. I think that when we pray as a group, it's powerful. When the body functions as a body in unison, it's so much more powerful. God hears us, and he does love us as his kids, and he wants to know that we're staying in touch with him. And the way that we do that is the way that he tells us to reconcile ourselves with him, is by doing so with a mournful heart, right? So think about what he's saying. He's telling you to do it with true emotion and passion. Take away all of your preconceived notions about yourself and who you believe or what you believe God may be. All right? Strip it all away and be the prayer that you're trying to give him. Just say it. Just say it. That way, nothing distracts your heart, that from the message that you're trying to give him, that or the question that you're trying to ask him. And what we want are softened hearts. What we need in this nation, not just this courtroom, but in this courtroom, are for hearts to be softened by God, touched by his finger, to remind everybody of their better nature, to soften the hearts. And we have to pray for this every day. This is going to be a long trial. We're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. And we want to pray for the jury, that the jury hears clearly what it is that we have to say, that we can speak directly into their hearts, and that our words will echo and reverberate through their heads down into their hearts, that they'll know the truth when they hear it, that it will affect them differently. And they'll know the truth of this case. They'll know the truth of the motives that are laying in the courtroom, bared to be exposed, to show everybody through a guilty verdict that this wasn't in good faith, because these weren't good people. That's why the lead investigator was fired and taken off of the case after beating his wife's head into the dresser, because these are not good faith actors. They've not been. Steve Robeson prayed with us, and he was trying to get us put in prison so he could continue to live some kind of a lifestyle. We have to pray for these men. We have to pray for them, that God will affect their hearts maybe more than anybody's, to get them to tell the truth, to get them to sit in the courtroom and tell the truth. That God would compel their hearts, that it would just fly out of their mouths before they even knew what they said. That God will be in that courtroom. His children will be there. And they're asking him to be there, so he will be. And we expect him to show his presence. We expect to be awed by what it is that our Father does. And praying along the lines of softened hearts, clear thought, genuine attitudes, where the people are going to try to attack us, and God knows that. He knows what he's signed every single one of us up for. He knows what's coming. So let us pray properly, that God would make us adequate to the task that he's given us. And that's all we're asking for. We don't have to be stellar in there. We don't have to blow everybody away. We just we would pray that he would make us adequate to the task of allowing his Spirit to speak through us, so that he can answer the questions. If evil asks us, let good be the answerer. If deception is flying out of their mouths, let our truths be so clear that it penetrates their lies and shuts them down from trying to continue to deceive everybody in that way. Pray that God blesses us the same way and for the same reasons that he blessed our nation, and to make us adequate to the task of that blessing. And then, we'll go home. We'll go home, and we'll be done. And we won't, we'll be done with that court case, and we will not be boastful about it. We'll be celebratory, and we'll praise God for it. And and we'll thank God for it. And then we'll see where he guides us from there, and what it is we're supposed to do from there. This is our obligation as Christians. And so if you wanted to end it in prayer, I think we can do that too, man.
Yeah, I think we should end it in prayer. Do you want to lead, or should I lead, or?
I'll lead, and you can take us home. How about that?
All right.
All right. Lord, we thank you for the privilege of prayer, that you love us so much that we can stop our day, or maybe stop your day, and we can pray at any time, and that we have that privilege, that you want to hear from us at all times. And here we are, Lord, imperfect, down here in a place that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. And we get the restoration from you when you remind us that, we're not from here, we're from you. And that's why this place doesn't make a lot of sense. And as we struggle through it, we know that we need you. And we thank you for being with us. We pray maybe that you would guide us here in the short future, more so than you ever have. That you would guide and tell us exactly where to be, and give us exactly what we need for you to speak through us. And we thank you for the privilege of being your kids, and we hope and pray that we can be adequate to the task, and And if we're not, that you'll make us, and get us where we need to be adequate to this task. And if we need to take it more serious, or if we need to be more lighthearted, that you would give us what we needed. Give our families calm. Give the people that love us calm. Let them know it's going to be okay, that we're riding there and back with you. And continue to be with us, Lord, and allow us to be lights in those courtrooms. Allow us to just be lights, whether we knew it or not. And yeah, thank you.
God, just I pray that you open hearts, open minds that are, closed, Father. And I recognize that without you, I can do nothing, and that your power guides us and leads us and directs us in the righteous paths of the word and in truth. That's the biggest thing, truth. So, God, we just hope that the truth comes out in this trial, and that you open the minds and open the hearts of those that may be shut against the truth. That those shutters may not stand, and that the light of that truth shines right through them. So, with that, I'll say, Amen.
Amen. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. I'm no preacher. I'm not a good prayer maker.
Right. No, I thought that was good, man. You did good there.
But yeah, I mean, that's the
we
biggest
covered all
thing is truth,
bases.
man. Truth. Like, hopefully, I know there's a lot of people that are shut against the truth. And I think that's the biggest problem with their country today, is that it's not that the truth isn't out there to be had. It's that there are many, many people who have shut their heart against the truth because it is either inconvenient, or it is hard, or it is something that they cannot deal with. So it's like, that's the biggest thing I think today, is that we need people to open up their hearts and minds to the truth. So
Well, I think because God does not call many people to be speakers in accordance to his own writings, what it really talks about, I believe both John and Paul talk about the way that the Christian is able to live their life is the way that they show who their God is. No matter what's happening, a lot of times, I used the analogy earlier, when you drive by churches, you always see people smiling as they're walking out. And this has been where non-believers have walked up to Christians and say, no matter what's going on, man, I see a smile on your face. I know you're going through some tough times or something. And it's in the way that we live. And these testimonials, if you will, this testification that is going to take place in the federal courts is a big exemplification of the way that the patriot community lives. We have a chance here to represent the United States patriot community, not just to our nation, but to the world, because we have world press there. And, this is an incredible privilege and honor and responsibility. And because God chose us to be the ones that he gave this to for this case, believe that all of us are taking it very serious, and we are, submitting to what God has given us. And so it's his time to speak when we get there, and that's what'll happen. And I believe that people are going to see, what it is that our God is capable of, even in a treacherous time.
Yep. So in closing, I want to thank all you guys. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here. Thank everybody who's been watching and in and out.
Likewise,
Chris
man.
Hinckley,
Thank you.
Paul Cross, Tierra Greider, Rhiannon Conklin, Rosemary McGuire, Christina Sayer, Blue, Tim, Tracy Sparks, We the People's Voice, all you guys, every one of you. You guys make this worth it, and you guys are the ones that have really made a difference in this case, because if we could have came on here and been speaking to nobody, but you were the people that came here to see the truth and carry that truth with you to everybody else. And that led to BuzzFeed reaching out, and led to so many other people carrying this story that otherwise would not have carried this story. and it's been amazing. And you guys are the reason that it happened. So I want to thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, you guys have done this with us, man. You guys, and a large part of you have been doing, the only ones in the nation doing this with us. This really was put squarely on our shoulders for whatever reason, and we're not getting the notoriety, and we probably won't get the notoriety until we testify, and then they'll give us our little 15 minutes there, and we're going to make the absolute most out of these 15 minutes to represent God, our nation, the patriot movement, and our families and ourselves as men and women with the utmost respect and responsible attitudes that we can bring into those courtrooms. And we're going to show them that you can call us terrorists, you can call us racist, you can call us whatever you want, paint us however you want, but that isn't going to make me or anybody else behave any differently or outside of our character in this courtroom or otherwise. We are who and what we are, and they're going to have to deal with that. And in that way, I look forward to this.
Yep. Well, amen to that. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.
Friday.
Until then, God bless, Godspeed, and God bless the United States of America.